It's time for the Money Puzzle Podcast. With good conversations and realistic solutions to the money puzzles we all face every day. I'm your host, financial advisor, chartered financial consultant, and president of Edgen Insurance and Financial, Robert Edgen. Now let's get this show started. Hi there, hello, and welcome to the Money Puzzle Podcast. I am Robert Edgen, and I'll be your guide for the ride for the next few minutes. I've never done that before.
It's the first time.
I'm sticking with it. I'll be your guide for the ride for the next few minutes. Each week, we look at a different piece of the money puzzle and practical ways to solve it so you can have the financial confidence you deserve and the future that you dream of. This is episode number 25. And today we are, well, it's still September. That means it's still Liam. Hooray!
Life Insurance Awareness Month.
My favorite month of the year. That's right. It's still Life Insurance Awareness Month, so we're going to continue on with solving puzzles that center around life insurance.
Sure.
Today, we are talking about times that your life insurance won't pay out. It's important to know because obviously if you're going to buy it, you probably want it to pay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your family definitely wants it to pay. To help me celebrate, Liam is my good friend, my business buddy and pal, one of the coolest dudes I know, Mr. Brian Johnson. Thank you for driving down from Denver and spending the day with me.
My pleasure.
So, how was the drive down?
Traffic from Denver to Colorado Springs these days is horrendous.
It is still horrible.
Construction.
That's right. It's what should take 45 minutes sometimes takes 4 to 5 hours.
It took me an hour and a half today. So, it was terrible.
That's why I always invite you down to my studio.
Yeah, that's why I always drive down here because I like the traffic.
So that's right. Plus, you don't have a studio of your own.
Yeah, no, not yet.
I appreciate you coming down. All right. We just got off of a long Labor Day weekend. Anything good that you guys did?
We just did a 10-hour hike. Yeah.
So a 10-hour hike on Labor Day.
Yeah, we did.
You labored on Labor Day.
We did, yes. We went up to a place called Mud Lakes and hung out there for like 30 minutes and walked all the way back. So it was like 5 hours up and 5 hours back.
Wow. And the kids enjoyed it? Or the kids did it?
Well, yeah, no, they did. My daughters and my wife rode the horses, and then me and the boys walked.
Oh, yeah, very cool. So, all right. Well, we've got a lot of great stuff to get through today, and I'm excited to get into that topic. But before we do, I do a lot of reading and research, and I come across some interesting news articles and financial headlines. So I thought we would take a minute to look at some news. Today's news headline actually isn't a news headline, but instead, I thought I would share some interesting laws in the state of Colorado, which is where Brian and I happen to work and reside and where we film. So I thought, Brian, I would share some news articles with you that I'm afraid, some laws with you that might get you into some trouble. Okay.
Yeah, let's see.
Starting with this first one, in the city of Denver, it is illegal to lend your vacuum cleaner to your next door neighbor.
I have been ticketed for that.
You should be.
Yes.
Yeah, you were too nice of a guy.
Yep. I give it to anybody.
Your neighbors took advantage of it.
They do.
And then they turned you into the police.
They did.
Those sons of guns.
I know, man. It was a $120 ticket.
Is that true?
No.
Okay. All right. So not really guilty.
Not really.
Just because you haven't been caught.
Yeah, not yet.
Okay. Not guilty of that one. How about this one? Brian, have you ever been in Logan County?
Yes.
Okay. I actually don't know where Logan County is.
It's a drive-through. You don't do anything there.
Okay. While you were in Logan County, did you happen to kiss your wife?
I did.
Was she awake or sleeping?
She was awake because we were, like I said, it's a pass-through.
Well, you are lucky because in Logan County, it is illegal to kiss a woman while she sleeps. So it's okay while she's awake, though.
It's okay while she's awake.
Yeah, all right. That's right. All right. This third law also concerns me about you because you're a horse owner.
We do.
And in Colorado, the entire state, it is illegal to ride your horse while under the influence. Guilty, not guilty?
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
You're not really much of a drinker.
No, I am not.
You don't partake very much.
Not very often.
No. I try to take it easy, which I will say I do most of the time. However, I believe that a good whiskey is good for you.
Well, hey, if you can get a DUI riding a bicycle, why can you not get a DUI for riding a horse?
I agree. Actually, I agree with this law. It seems pretty dangerous to get on a horse while you're drinking.
Horses, well-trained horses, they just know where to go. what difference does it make?
Are you saying it's okay?
Yes. They know where they're going. They always know how to get home.
Oh, all right. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I'm not a horse owner, so
Right.
I don't know. So, all right. If you want to read about those laws and some other interesting laws, I've got the link to that in the show notes. But for now, let's go ahead and get into our topic of the week. All right, so we spent the last few weeks talking about life insurance, how much you need, what kind you should get, how much it might cost, etc., etc. Okay. Well, if you're going to get life insurance, or if you have some, kind of like we talked about at the beginning, you probably want it to pay out if you die.
That's right.
So we should talk about things that will cause your life insurance to not pay out.
Sure.
And we think there's probably 7 or 8 different times that a life insurance will not pay. Okay. Yep. So let's run through them, starting with Brian. Where would you like to start?
Let's start with a little known clause called the contestability clause.
Contestability clause. Yeah. So I have a definition of contestability clause. Okay.
Yeah, read it.
And I got it from insure.com. And it says this: the life insurance contestability period is a short window in which insurance companies can investigate and deny claims. The period is 2 years in most states, 1 year in others. But if you die during the contestability period, the life insurance company can investigate whether you gave accurate information on your life insurance application. Okay. For example.
Yeah. For example, let's just say that, because there's always questions about mom and dad. Yep. Let's say both mom and dad had heart disease.
Okay.
And you put on the application no.
Okay.
But they actually did.
Then
you die of a heart attack.
Got it. They could invest during the first 2 years.
Yep.
So Colorado is 2 years for contestability. Yep. So check your state. It could be 1 year or 2. But if you die during that contestability period, they're going to investigate more than normal into the cause of death.
Yep.
So if you were not factual on the application, they may come back and say, wait a second, yes, you knew that you had a history of heart disease in your family. You told us you did not.
Well, they wouldn't say that to me.
Well, that's very true.
Because I'd be dead.
You'd be dead. That's right.
They would say it to my wife.
That's right. Yeah. So they could investigate. They could choose to deny coverage because of that.
They could.
So contestability is a pretty serious deal that lasts again for about 2 years. What's the easiest way to not run into that problem?
Tell the truth.
Be honest on your application. Actually, I talked a little bit about this last week. It's far better to be honest and explain things than and get caught on things when you admit it, right?
Yep.
Then have them come back and catch you for things when it's too late to fix.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Just because you would admit things on an application doesn't mean you can't have life insurance. Right. It just gives the company the opportunity to make a better underwriting decision.
That's right.
So, okay. A step up from the contestability clause would just be outright fraud.
Outright fraud.
Right? The difference between fraud and contestability is that with fraud, you are intentionally deceiving the insurance company in order to make a profit.
Right.
So some states and some companies tie the fraud and the contestability period together.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing.
So you've got 2 years where if you die and they catch you, they could deny a claim, right?
Yeah.
Other states and some companies, it goes all the way back to the inception of the policy, no matter how long it is.
Yep.
Right.
That's
so
right.
A good example that comes to my mind, and I'll use this one because I used to be a skydiver. Right. If I would have said, no, I am not a skydiver, well, I'm going to get cheaper life insurance. But then if I went out, in the first 2 years skydiving, died, that could be fraud.
It could be. Now, there are instances that it wouldn't be, right? Let's say you're on vacation and just a whim because you were drinking and riding a horse and the horse took you to the airport.
I hate it when that happens.
You jumped out of the airplane. That probably would not be considered fraud since you've never done it before and it was just kind of a whim thing.
It's something that came up. That's right. You may change your lifestyle. Yeah. You may change your hobbies and your activity. You may change your occupation. Yeah. You might be a very conservative life insurance agent when you buy life insurance and then become a bomb diffuser 2 years later.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that what they're called? Bomb diffusers?
I don't know. No. It's the EOD. Explosive ordnance, disposable, whatever.
I'll take it. So, again, how do we avoid getting caught and having your policy denied for fraud?
Tell the truth.
Tell the stinking truth, right? How tough is this? So contestability is one, fraud is another.
Yeah, the hardest one, suicide.
Yep. That's right. Suicide does not mean that a life insurance policy will not pay, but there are some times that it will not. Okay. What are the rules in Colorado?
So the rule in Colorado is 1 year.
Meaning if you buy a life insurance policy and you commit suicide during the first year, the policy is not going to pay.
That's right.
They put that in place to protect insurance companies from people who know they are going to do this.
Yep.
They go out and buy a policy, and they might be perfectly healthy.
But we got to be careful. It's not just to protect the insurance company. It's also to protect the other policyholders as well.
Well,
because
absolutely.
because each policyholder has a financial stake in the insurance company to be there when a claim needs to be paid.
Right.
And if there were a lot of suicides and stuff intentional, it could definitely affect an insurance company.
Yeah. So the suicide clause is there. They don't want to prevent families from getting death benefits. But there is there's just a known, if you know you're going to do this and you are intentionally buying life insurance knowing.
Yep.
So the thinking is that no one's going to buy life insurance and then wait 2 years to commit suicide. Now, once you're past that suicide clause, it pays out.
It pays out. Absolutely.
That's right. But it's definitely a tough one. So, okay. Here's a very easy one, not paying your premiums.
Not paying your premium, right? Yeah. It's more of a problem with term.
So, absolutely. So, term insurance is like renting your life insurance. Think about it like this. You're renting an apartment. What happens if you don't pay your rent?
They boot you.
They kick you out.
Yep.
What happens if you're renting your life insurance and you don't pay? It
They
cancels. That's right. It goes away. However, in a permanent policy, which we talked a little bit about a couple of weeks ago, so you can go look at that. Permanent policy just means that it could build up some cash inside of it. Now, if you quit making your payments and it's a permanent policy, it could use the cash inside of it to pay for you for a while. Right. But then if that runs out, same thing. Your policy cancels. What happens when your policy cancels?
You have to reapply. There's nothing there.
There's no life insurance.
No, so, I've had people do it. They pay quarterly. They pay 6 months or something, and they miss that premium payment, and we have to show evidence of insurability. Basically, reapply for that policy, and you could be denied.
You have to start over.
You do.
So that's right. Okay, it seems simple enough.
Yep.
Pay your premiums. That keeps the policy going. Here's one though that kind of goes along with this: dying before you make your first payment. So life insurance does not take effect until you pay a premium, right? But when you're applying for coverage, you can send in a premium and then do your testing if they require it. And then the life insurance company will give you coverage before the policy is issued.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
I mean, whoever would have really thought that? Because you have a couple of examples.
I do. So, one that comes to mind is I had a gentleman in his 50s, very nice guy. He had a family. We needed to protect them with $350,000 of coverage. So when we were applying, I gave him the option. If we send your application in with the first month's payment and you do your tests, you're covered while they're checking you out, right? If you don't, you're not covered until they approve it and you pay.
Yeah.
Right? He made that payment. We sent in the application. 2 weeks later, after he had done his testing, he unfortunately died of a heart attack, right? Very sad. But because he had sent the money in, they did do a pretty thorough investigation.
Sure.
They wanted to, because we're in the contestability period.
Yep.
They wanted to check for fraud. Did he know he had this heart stuff?
Right.
But he didn't. There was no history. It just happened. So what happened? They still paid out $350,000 to the family. And get this, because the policy wasn't issued yet, they refunded the premium back to the family.
Yeah, it's outstanding, really.
It's outstanding. So this is something to consider. If you need life insurance or more life insurance, you may want to send in your payment with the application.
Yeah, and no, it doesn't always count for every policy. It depends on the face amount. Mm-hmm. So certain companies, depends on the company, it could be $500,000, it could be $1 million that they're not going to accept premium payment for it because they don't want to be on the hook
for that much.
Like in that example, for $1 million.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. But it is possible to do. Definitely worth considering. Yep. If you don't send it in, you've got to wait for it to go through the underwriting, get the policy back, then you make your payment, then it starts.
Yep.
So, okay. How about, let's see here, what else do we got? The type of death wasn't covered.
Right, type of death. So nobody would ever really think of this. Illegal activity.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Rob takes up bank robbing, right?
Rob robs a bank.
Yeah, Rob robs a bank. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's got financial problems. Just things happen. And he goes in there with a gun, and he picks the bank that has the police officer in there.
And he gets me.
And he gets you. He puts you down. It may not pay.
That's right. And now this is not true of all policies, no. But some policies will have a clause that says illegal activity. Yep. They may also have a clause about dangerous activities, especially if they're not disclosed.
Right. Now, Rob's policy does not have the clause about robbing banks. He's okay with that.
I'm okay with that. So if I get on a horse drunk and I get a DUI and it starts this downward spiral, takes me to the airport, and so I skydive and I land at a bank.
And then you rob it.
And then I'm okay.
You're okay.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yes.
So, all right. Dangerous activities, same thing. Skydiving, which I used to skydive, right?
We talked about that a little bit already.
Well, so just because you do dangerous activities doesn't mean you can't get life insurance.
Right.
When I got mine as a skydiver, yes, I had to pay more. Why? Because I was jumping out of airplanes, right? But once I quit jumping out of airplanes for a time, 2 years, I was actually able to have it switched to a non-skydiver rate. So just because you do something dangerous doesn't mean you cannot get coverage. Right. But it does mean if you don't tell the insurance company about it, they could deny a claim, again, especially during that first 2 years.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Aaron and I did, we, on a whim when we were out of the country, did scuba diving for the very first time. Never done it before, never even really thought about doing it, but we did it.
Yeah. It's fun, by the way.
It was.
I'm a scuba diver. So, okay. How about act of war or terrorism?
In some policies, yes.
That's right. So this is one where you'll want to check your policy. For example, the ones that we typically deal with don't say anything about act of war or terrorism, meaning that they are covered.
Yep.
But some policies will put some limitations on that. So it's just something to be aware of that you need to check. So, all right. And then another one is if you're going to be living outside of the United States.
Yeah, living, because I know like on most applications that we deal with, there's always a question of either traveling or are you going to be residing in a foreign country for like more than 4 weeks, I think is
That's right.
The question.
That's right. It doesn't mean that you can't get coverage. It just means that you need to disclose it.
Right. Let's just say that you traveled a lot for work and some of it was, for overseas going to, Singapore or going to Germany or whatever. They're not bad places to go, but it needs to be disclosed. And there's usually an extra questionnaire called the Foreign Travel Questionnaire, in which they want to know what countries that you go to on a regular basis.
Yes, and why, and for how long. That's right.
Yep.
So,
and even what towns you want to go to. I had a guy a few years ago working for a really big multinational company, and he was going to Pakistan.
Okay.
Every once in a while, and we were looking for coverage for him, and they wanted to know every single town in which he had been to or was going to in Pakistan, because there's
some are good and some are bad.
Some are good and some are bad. That's right.
Is there any other reasons that you can think of that a life insurance policy might not pay out?
No, not really, because as long as you're honest and take care of things, it's pretty straightforward. I've never had one even questioned.
Yeah, the only time that I've had a couple of them investigated. One was that gentleman we already discussed, and then I did have another one. It was during the first 2 years, so it was investigated, but same thing. It was still paid. There were no problems. So really, I agree. I think that those are the reasons that we've discussed on why a life insurance policy will not pay. So what is the easiest basic lesson that we learned from all of these reasons that we discussed? What should you do?
Always be honest.
Just tell the stinking truth. That's right. Give your insurance company, the life insurance company, a chance to look at you and make a decision.
Yeah, I know you've done this, and I do it. I mean, we oftentimes will either put comments or even write letters as to explanations as what we're applying for, why we're applying for it, if there's any concerns medical-wise. And a great example is, what if you're adopted?
Oh, you might
you
not
don't know your family history. You need to note that sort of stuff.
So that's right.
Yeah.
It's a good reason to work with a life insurance professional.
Yep.
So absolutely. All right. Oh, actually, you know what? I did think of one more reason.
Oh, okay.
What if no one knows you have the life insurance policy?
There you go.
So it's not that they won't pay, but someone has to file a claim.
Yes.
Right? If you die and the life insurance claim isn't filed, there's never going to be a payout.
Yep.
So make sure that your family knows you have life insurance.
Or a close friend or whoever. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, because, I mean, what if, you're old and your wife has passed on, you still have your policy, and you wanted to go to a church?
Well, yeah, that's right.
Let them know.
You have to let folks know.
Yep.
The claims process, there's a few forms to do. You've got to turn in a death certificate. But if you do not turn those things in, how would they ever know to pay out?
They'll never know.
Yeah, so that's right. Okay. So, and at least, even you don't have to have your policy.
No.
You just have to, someone has to know to contact that company.
Yep.
Yep. So make sure they know who to contact. Next week, I've got, I think, a very interesting interview that I'm going to do with someone who actually works for me.
Okay.
Erin, she is a young lady. She just turned 25, and her new husband have really been through some stuff, some health stuff, and they've had a lot of medical things going on. And she has a pretty unique story to tell, about life insurance. Right. So she's going to be joining me next week. We're going to talk about that. So make sure you join me for that. But other than that, I think that's it for this week.
All right.
I hope that you got some value out of today's show. If you did, please make sure that you share it with someone else who needs to add a little bit of money sense into their life, and go give us a rating on whatever app you listen to the podcast on. If you watch us on YouTube, give us some thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss any shows. And if you've got your own money puzzle that you need help with, email your questions to questions@yourmoneypuzzle.com. Until next week, be safe, have fun, go out and do something to improve your money puzzle. Your future self will be glad you did.
Registered representative of and securities offered through Securities Management and Research, Inc., SM&R. Member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through BFC Planning, Inc. Edgen Insurance and Financial Services, Johnson Financial Services, SM&R, American National Family of Companies, and BFC Planning are independent entities. There are risks involved with investing which may include market fluctuation and possible loss of principal value. Particular investments may not be suitable for certain situations. Carefully consider the risks and possible consequences involved prior to making an investment decision. Our firm does not provide legal or tax advice. Be sure to consult with your own legal and tax advisors before taking any action that may have tax implications.